Ramit,
Yes, Farnoosh, how you doing?
did you hear my introduction?
You always do the best introductions. I wish you could introduce me, Farnoosh.
I just was, I'm increasing my volume here. I was just gushing about you and also saying that I haven't talked to you in like a little bit. And so it's
I
nice to
know.
just catch up with, I feel like I'm catching up with a friend.
I love it. I always love talking to you. It's going to be a blast, and it's nice to talk to you this time from different coasts. Last
Yeah.
time we were right near each other. Now
I
we've
love
moved
that
to
we
the West
color
Coast.
coordinated at least.
Of course.
Um, yeah, let's just jump right into it because now you're not living near me anymore. You're on the West Coast. This was a move that you made in the pandemic. Tell us about what prompted it.
Well, my wife and I had lived in New York for over 10 years. We're both originally from California. When the pandemic happened, I remember taking a class on trauma and on catastrophic things that happen to people. And one of the key predictors of people who ended up surviving was they moved fast. And so as soon as this pandemic started happening, uh, I remember seeing the numbers. And because we're both in personal finance, we know what compounding means and how fast it can grow. And that, plus I've watched a lot of Batman movies where things go bad in the city and you want to get out fast. So I told my wife, we got to go. And it was so early in March that even my friends, when I texted them on our WhatsApp group, I was like, guys, we're out of here tomorrow. And they were like, what are you talking about? It was that early. Next week after that, what would happen, but I knew that in the worst case, we would feel a little stupid for overreacting and a little silly, and that would be fine. But I also knew that in times of trauma or stress, better to overreact than to underreact. And that was the philosophy that guided us to make the move. First, we left the city for a few months, and eventually we are both from California, so we decided to just come to California and temporarily try it out and see if we liked it. And that's how we ended up here.
Yeah, I love that expression of better to overreact than underreact. Hey, Ramit, your audio is a little distant. I don't know if you can come a little bit closer to your phone.
Sure. Sure. How's that? Is that a
I
little
think
better?
that's better. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Perfect, perfect. So you overreacted, or maybe not. You kind of, you're happy. You're good with this decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I think being able to have flexibility is definitely part of our rich life. So, for example, I talk a lot about buying versus renting. In this case, we rent by choice, and renting allowed us to simply pack up and go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great. And so that flexibility is nice. Now, I also want to say, we don't have children, so that adds an extra level of flexibility. Not everyone can do that. But as we think about how we are crafting our rich lives, all of us, everybody watching, I really want people to think hard about why are we spending money on the things we are. If we want to buy a house, for example, because we love it, or a car, or travel for a month at a time, great. I want to show you how to spend more on that. But I often find that most of us are operating on these invisible scripts, spending money
Yeah.
just because our parents did or because society tells us, and I don't like that.
What also afforded the move for you and anyone else who moved in the pandemic, including our family, we got up and left as well, although it was a bit of a planned move, but the pandemic surely accelerated that, was having savings and financial capacity to do those things, to execute on those overreactions. So what's your advice for people who feel whether it's justified or not? Because, sometimes we live in scarcity. We don't think we can afford certain moves. We don't know how to assess a decision. Like, is it more expensive for me to stay or to move? I don't even know if I have enough money. And I really know this is going to, benefit me potentially in the long run. Like, what's the calculus?
The best calculus is to have enough saved that this is not a financial decision, but rather a decision of values and of safety. That's the ideal scenario, which is why you and I have been talking about emergency funds for years. Many people treat it like flossing. Yeah, I know I should. I should save an emergency fund. But what emergency? Most of us actually don't encounter that emergency very frequently. a situation like this, a lot of us realize, oh my God, if if I lose my job, if my partner loses their job, we could really be in trouble quickly. And so what I always want to encourage people to do is never get your back against the wall. Never have to make a bad decision because of money. If you can simply live that rule, you're going to live a pretty good life. So
Yeah.
what does that mean? It means having some amount of emergency fund savings. In fact, during the pandemic, I increased my recommendation from 6 months to 12 months, even if that means you stop contributing to your retirement accounts and you minimize your payments on debt just to the basics. A lot of people found that to be overly conservative. I don't, because in a pandemic and in a recession, that times can change very, very quickly. So I would rather have you lose 6 months, 12 months, 18 months of retirement contributions, but be safe than, well, let me just ride this wave really close to the wall. You might make it, but if you don't, it can be catastrophic.
Yes. Yes. Listeners, viewers, leave us your questions for Ramit. I want to ask him a few more questions, and then I want to open it up to our crowd. I love what you say also, Ramit, about you have this philosophy around big wins versus little wins, or whatever you call them,
Waste
like
of time.
waste
Waste
of
of
time.
time,
People who are
pointless
like,
minutia.
my my online account's only earning me 0.01%. Should I move all my money to another bank that's giving me 0.8%? People trying to game the checking accounts. What's your response?
You guys are wasting your time. Stop doing it. How many people watching right now have gotten one of those emails from your online account? Oh, we're dropping our rate 0.25%. And then you go like this, ah! Oh my God, I need to start Googling around. Oh, I need to compare account. Stop wasting your time. Are you sitting around vacuuming up pennies? Because that's effectively what you're doing. Let me break the math down for you. 0.25% decrease on a $10,000 balance. Do you even know how much money that is? No, most of you think, oh, that's just it's so bad. They're taking my money. That's about $2 a month. Why are we even talking about this? Most people are wasting their time asking $3 questions. They need to be asking $30,000 questions. You guys are wasting your life asking about lattes, 0.25% decreases. You're not asking about your asset allocation, your automated investment. You're not negotiating your salary. You're not thinking about how to start a business. You're not doing any of that. And you're sitting here spending your entire life chasing after $2 increases day after day. It's a waste of a life. Yes, minimize all these unnecessary fees you pay. Great. Yes, be frugal where appropriate, but do not spend the rest of your life chasing after $2 and $2 over and over again. It is a travesty and a tragedy.
Why do you think we're so obsessed with frugality?
Well, think about the people who write about it. Why don't most financial experts write about earning more? Simple, they don't know how. They themselves only focus as 9 to 5 employees, typically, or contractors. They focus on a fixed pie. Well, I have this much, and how do I disable my oven light so it saves me 32 cents per year? What a waste of time. Why? Why are we talking about this? I don't ever want to talk about anything that's $3 or less. No, let's talk instead about, ooh, you're paying a 1% annual fee that you don't even know to your financial advisor, and that's actually going to take 28% of your lifetime investment returns, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh no, 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 no. We got to talk about the extra large latte. That's $4, guys. I don't want to talk about that anymore, and I wish the personal finance industry would instead shift to focusing on these bigger things instead of puritanically guilting everyone for their $2 minor pleasures.
Preach. People here are like, we love Ramit. Ramit all day. Ramit all day. In the questions, somebody asked about what's your take on investing in index funds versus an investment property? Yeah, I sort of feel like they're sort of here. They're not the same. Like, why not do both? Like, these aren't substitutes.
That's a good. I like your comment, Farnoosh. I think that's like saying, should I play volleyball or soccer? And it's like you could actually play both if you like, or you can do one or none. Well, you should do index funds.
Yeah.
So let me break it down. So first off, index funds, awesome investments. I actually prefer their cousin, the target date funds for ordinary investors, because it's one investment. It automatically rebalances over time, and that's it. It's so simple and beautiful and low fee. Index funds also great. Now, as for investment properties, if you want to buy an investment property and you actually treat it like an investment, meaning you run the numbers, you manage it, vacancy, all of that, great. One of the most common mistakes that Americans make is they buy the place they live in and they think it's an investment. And for many people, it's not. I want to give people just a couple of things to think about. Number one, I could buy a house right now. I've rented for over 15 years by choice. Now people are like, wait, what? So I will teach you to be rich guys a renter? I thought renters are just people who don't have enough money. No! Run the numbers. In Manhattan, where I lived for over 10 years, it made zero financial sense for me to buy. Let me say that again, because it's like challenging someone's religion. In America, real estate is religion. In Manhattan, I could have bought an apartment. It made no financial sense for me to. Instead,
Oh, can't hear you. I lost you. You. Okay, you want to come back? All right, he's going to come back. But while he's coming back, I'm going to summarize. Don't ask $3 questions. And he was just about to tell us why he decided to rent in Manhattan than own. He's going to come back right now and tell us about his rationale behind that. Because I owned for 10 years and made nice little chunk of change. So tell us why you are renting, or why
I got too hyped. I had to come back and finish this.
Yeah,
okay.
We're like at the edge of our seats.
Okay, so it was a better financial decision for me to rent and take all the additional money I would have spent buying and to invest that in low-cost index funds rather than to buy. Why? Because there's one thing very few people talk about. Everybody's heard about some grandma in Dallas, Texas. She bought her house for $200,000 in 1972, and she just sold it for $600,000. Oh, grandma profited $400K. Grandma's a genius. Grandma basically didn't even beat inflation, because grandma doesn't know how to calculate all the phantom costs she spent, including taxes, maintenance, and on and on and on. Grandma also does not know how to calculate her opportunity cost of investing in a low-cost 0.15% fee having index fund. So guys, I want to emphasize to you this. Buying can be a good financial decision, but oftentimes it's not. Also, buying a house does not have to be a financial decision or a financial investment. Why does everything have to be an investment?
Right.
Is this thing I'm drinking out of an investment? No, it's something I drink coffee out of. This shirt, is it an investment? No, it's a nice shirt that I like.
Right.
Your house is simply something most people buy. And for me, when I buy a house one day, it's going to be the biggest, it's going to be a great house, I'm sure. It'll be a terrible financial decision, but it will be something that I want and that we want. So guys, please, chapter 9 of my book, learn how to think about the house that you live in. It drives me insane.
And no grandmothers were harmed in the making of this IG Live. We just want to be respectful of all the grandmas out there.
I'm harmed by listening to some of the terrible logic that people use when they decide to buy a house. I'm the one who's really harmed here. We should all be saying sorry to Ramit.
No, someone said, he goes, Ramit's yelling, but I'm here for it. I am here for it. And then She Talks Finance. I'm a financial planner. I rent for the same reason. Didn't make financial sense where I live. Let's talk really quick about the intersection of politics and money, Ramit. It's nice to be talking post-election, because now we have some level of certainty, although I don't even know about that. But you feel, and I feel truly, that it's important to talk about, issues, policies, and share our positions on certain policies, because it does impact our personal finances. Not everyone's willing to go that far. Why is it important to you?
For many years, I did not talk about politics. And eventually, some things became so egregious that I had to speak up. And as I started to speak up, I realized that number one, it's important to me from a values perspective to say when things are just horribly wrong, when people are being discriminated against for their religion, for example, when the Consumer Financial Protection Agency is being defanged, which which is protecting you and me and ordinary Americans. But even more than that, I wanted to show people that money is politics. And when I get comments saying, I don't read your book for the politics, I simply laugh because money is politics. Why you young people cannot afford a house, that's politics. That's elderly homeowners being protectionist NIMBYs and not allowing more houses to be built, which means you young people cannot afford houses. When you get ripped off with 1.25% fees that you didn't even know exist, and you're a school teacher working in California who had no idea you're paying near extortionate fees, that's politics. And when you hear these nonsensical arguments about, ooh, if we raise taxes on the rich, they will leave the state, that's politics, and that's also not true. We know the data behind it. So I've become very comfortable talking about politics, and I've hoped to encourage more people, and Farnoosh, I'm so glad that we both talk about this here today, that money is politics, they are intertwined inextricably, and that it's one thing to say we should try harder. Of course we should. It's one thing to say we should take personal responsibility. Of course we should. But we also need to acknowledge systemic issues that affect people. And those two things can coexist together.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I've started talking about politics.
And thank you for doing that. It's so important. And I think another for me, it's like I don't feel like when you say politics, you know, that for some people is a trigger word. It's like, oh well, then that means someone is right and someone is wrong. But I think where we're coming at it is like it's just it's some things are wrong and it's just it is, and some things are right, but it doesn't make, we don't have to argue about it. Let's just agree that some things are right and some things are wrong. Basic things like people need access to resources, everybody should have the same freedoms, and certain people need more of those freedoms to catch up with the lack of having those freedoms for generations and lifetimes. And I feel like I like to use the word policy because it's a little bit more uh, sort of objective, I guess. You know, like these are just decisions that have been made, and it's not that they were made by bad people or good people, but these are decisions, and we should no longer be adhering to these decisions, and we should change these decisions. People get so caught up in terminology and words. It's like sometimes you do have to change the words because people can't get past certain terms in order to really see what's happening.
Farnoosh, what has been the reaction as you have talked more about politics from your community? What have you noticed?
You know, certainly there are a few people who get upset and then they go away, but that's okay. I think that's we were never meant to be, you know, maybe in a conversation then, but most people really appreciate it, and it's so refreshing, I think, for most people because you're finally calling out the elephant in the room. And it's actually great because people feel more empowered. They feel like not everything has been their fault, you know, that there is this sort of blame game that we play in personal finance. Like, well, you should have saved, you should have asked for the raise, you should have known better. And bad things happen to good people. And it's not your fault. And I think that we need to call that out more and acknowledge that, to your point, there is a cluster of forces that are all working. And one of those forces is the systems and the policies. And you know, so I appreciate that. And I know that you've been donating a ton in this time frame. And I think, you know, right now, December is a really popular time to give. What's your advice for people who want to give and give meaningfully?
I'm so glad we're talking about this. You know, in I Will Teach You to Be Rich, one of the things I talk about that is a core component of a rich life is giving back. and that can be giving time. As I was raised, we went to our temple and we donated time. Now that I'm more able to financially, I give checks. And what I've wanted to do ever since the last few years where I've been more public about fundraising is I wanted to show people that you don't have to wait until you're 70 to become a philanthropist.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, Farnoosh, it has been fascinating, frustrating, and rewarding to start encouraging my audience to give more. I want to share a couple things I learned. So we raised money for children who were separated at the border. My wife and I raised money. And my company and I raised money for Feeding America earlier this year. And then just last month, I wrote a $101,000 check to give everyone in these 4 states, our cities, free rides to vote. And as I have encouraged people to contribute, the psychology is so fascinating. I had a reader of mine who spent over $15,000 with me. And he's very successful. And he asked for a free scholarship ticket to one of my fundraisers. And I said, you spent $15,000, you got a lot of money. And he goes, yeah, but I don't usually budget for charity. And also I don't know where the money's going. And so what I've learned is that when it comes to writing checks for charity, most people adopt a completely different mindset. They'll go to Burger King. They don't know where the meat came from. They don't know where that person who's making their burger came from.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay.
We don't want to know, actually.
We actually don't. Exactly. However,
meat.
when it comes to writing a $10 check, what's the traceability of the funding? You know what I tell them? Shut up and write the check. $10, $50, in this case, $5,000. And what I want to encourage people to do is, yes, build systems. Yes, become more accountable. But in the meantime, you can write a check right now. You don't have to wait till you're 70. So the biggest reward I have seen is some of my friends texting me and saying, Ramit, I saw what you did. I wrote a $10,000 check to the ACLU. I've never given that much in my life. Thank you. That is even more meaningful than the amount is the fact that this is a young person who's going to be donating and politically active for the rest of their life. That's what I want everyone to do. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be $1 million. You can write a small check right now and make a difference. Or you could donate your time, help a young child read. That is critical in part of a rich life.
Yes, yes. And your resources and your advice and your access to your network. I tell people, open up all those people you've collected on LinkedIn over the last 10 years, those 3,000 people you're connected to, someone who needs a job in your friend circle, like be that link.
Yeah.
Because now more than ever, people need jobs. I mean, there's so many ways to give back. To encourage people to do that is awesome. All right. Your favorite taco in Los Angeles? I know that you are fixated with the Mexican cuisine out on the West Coast.
Okay, so, I'm from Northern California originally, and coming back here for the first month, all I did was eat Mexican food with my wife. We love it. Then I sent an email to my email list and told them, and just as a joke at the bottom, I was like, hey, let me know any LA people if you have a favorite taco. Farnoosh, I got back almost 1,000 emails, and I'm talking obscure taco recommendations. They're like, go here on Tuesday, ask for this guy, and get him to make this. And I was like,
get the corn taco, not the flour taco.
Yeah, it's like a 10-year to-do list. So anyway, I want to share what I have, my favorites so far, but please don't judge me because I'm new to LA and I know I'm just a student at this stage. So LA people, please don't write me. I already know I'm wrong, but I love Sonora Town. It's so good. I recommend it. Downtown LA, I eat on the back of my car. It's so delicious. So thank you for everyone who recommended Sonora Town in LA.
Yeah, help out your local Mexican taco dealer right now.
Exactly. And they're on Instagram too, so check them out.
All right, Ramit. Okay, so I hate leaving, but it's been almost 30 minutes. I guess one last question I have is what's your #1 money goal for 2021? What's Ramit's #1 money goal for the new year?
My number one money goal is I'm taking my family on an absolutely amazing, magical trip next year. And I'm trying to get our family to build a habit and a tradition of a big family trip per year. And it's taking some work to get everyone aligned, but I'm very confident it's going to happen. So hopefully when everything is safe and we're ready to go, we are going to have the trip of an absolute lifetime. That is my goal for next year.
Yes. Well, from your lips to God's ears, I hope we get that to happen, because we all need to. There's a few things that have to happen in between before
Yes.
we can all get on that. Not a cruise. Please, just whatever you do, just
No.
don't let it be a cruise.
Good advice. No cruises.
Ramit, best wishes to you and Cass, and enjoy that weather on the West Coast. Thanks for spending time with us, and as always, loving your advice.
Thanks,
We'll
Farnoosh.
be
It's a
watching you.
pleasure. Hope to see you soon.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, friend.